if you want a high-performing environment, a consistent high-performing environment, then you need to have alignment that allows everybody the understanding that they know their roles and responsibilities, they know their direction of travel, it's monitored regularly, and they're also feeling that they've got autonomy. They feel they're part of the process, they're not a cog in the works.
What are the transferable skills from sport to the business world?
It's really interesting, like looking at sport and where it can transfer some of the work we do with business. And obviously there's some stuff that just does not transfer, but communication, how you approach, how you behave, how you communicate with people is vitally important in sport as it is in business. How you induct on board, how you off board, how you exit players, staff, again, has massive parallels with business, and creating guardrails. And by that, I mean, creating agreed principles on how people are going to behave and what goals we're all aiming for. We do in sport on a daily basis. It sets our planning up brilliantly, and it has massive resonance with what you do in business to allow people to be themselves and create psychological safety, but within guardrails that also allow everybody to have that containment, that alignment, which can propel whatever you are trying to achieve. And another thing that's vitally important is appraisals and reviews. You know, in sport, we'll do an after action review, a hot review, a preview, and often that's player led as well as coach led. They need to be regular. You need to hit the right notes. And that's the same in business. You know, quarterlies and yearly reviews are really in the back mirror. You've got to be thinking about consistent reviews, informal, formal, structured, unstructured. And these are things that you have to do in sport on a regular basis to help people be their best versions and give them appropriate feedback to help them with their gaps and their aspirations.
What are the key factors of creating a high performance team?
I would say there's a lot of smaller things, but the big kind of headline topics in creating a high performance team is around understanding and making the most of the individual and the team. So individuals will all have their own aspirations and their own goals, their own egos, their own destinations they want to achieve in their careers. And you have to marry that in a high performance organization with them understanding and connecting to being part of a bigger team, being part of an organization where alignment is absolutely crucial, that the we goes in front of the me. And it's something in sport that we deal with on an hourly basis, really. In the Premier League, star players will want to play well, will want to add value, will want to get higher honours, but they need to do it all within a structure that allows the team to breathe, their team to perform, the team to behave in the appropriate ways. And so it's understanding that and juggling that. And that comes onto the second bit, where if you want a high-performing environment, a consistent high-performing environment, then you need to have alignment that allows everybody the understanding that they know their roles and responsibilities, they know their direction of travel, it's monitored regularly, and they're also feeling that they've got autonomy. They feel they're part of the process, they're not a cog in the works. They have safety in having conversations with people above and below and to the side of them, so that you create that safe environment that allows everybody to breathe and operate in the manner that they are being brought into the building, being brought into the team to be their best version. So one of the other key things to make sure that you understand and create a high-performing team consistently is juggling the desires and ambitions of the individual versus working together as a team to create alignment and make sure that you put the we in front of the me. And I use lots of tools, practical tools that I talk about in my Keynote speaks and my day-to-day working that allows you to make sure that happens and you get the best out of both worlds.
Does diversity and inclusion help increase performance in a team?
Diversity and inclusion is huge. To give you an example, with Fiji, there was one culture when I was there. And with England, we had various demographics that were coming into the team, and same from the staff. And with Brentford, we have over 20 nationalities in the training ground. And with diversity, the strength comes different ways of thinking, different approaches to problems, and finding solutions in different ways, having a broader breadth of knowledge in the building and in the organization and in the team. And what it also stops, or certainly reduces, is groupthink and subconscious bias. Two things that pop up all the time in professional and elite sport and in the workplace, going along with with whatever the leader's saying, thinking that you're all going the right way and not getting questioned, not getting asked the appropriate and the right questions. And when you have a diverse and inclusive group, you have way more chance at reducing and eliminating that, and allowing the right answers, the right solutions, and the right way to run your business work.
How did you manage to turn the fortunes of the Fijian rugby team around and become one of the best ever sevens team?
My time with Fiji was, it was so beneficial to me to understand how to create a high-performing, consistent, world-class team from the start, when I joined a team that were bankrupt, that had nobody being paid, I was working underneath a military regime, and it was at its lowest point it had ever been in its history, to 3 years later winning double world titles and Olympic gold medals. And all of that came from putting the processes in place and create an environment where the first thing I ever do going in anywhere is listen and understand the culture. I was the only person that had come in from outside the Fijian culture, so I had to understand. And it's appropriate to understand not just the culture you're coming into, but the time you go into those cultures. And I was not just going into a third world country. I was also going in at a time where finances were not there, where a dictatorship was running the country, and they were intrinsically linked to the rugby team. And so I needed to gather information to then make the appropriate decisions, and the pace and the risk of those decisions. And then I had to be consistent, and we had to have agreed principles. And again, I'll talk about my guardrails. I talk about making sure that I involve and connect those around me into the conversations. And I also look for what I call the trampolines, parts of the organization, parts of the culture, parts of the team that you can jump on to accelerate your performance. It's kind of like applying Pareto's principle, but that's what I always do. And with Fiji, we found some really good trampolines very early on that accelerated performance, got buy-in, connected what we were doing to outcomes, and all of that began our journey really. And then it was about consistent behaviors, and it was about creating a team. But by the end of it, I didn't need to be there as a leader. I could make myself redundant, and I always have that outlook on every job I've ever had, that I don't turn up for work, or I'm in the stand having a beer watching the team, because they don't need me. And therefore, as a result of that, all my processes and everything we do around the organization leads to that moment. It allows microdosing of more autonomy from staff, from employees, from players, from athletes, so that they get to the point where they have created an environment that no longer needs the leader.
What does good leadership look like in your eyes?
What a great question. Good leadership. Firstly, you need to know what type of leadership is required, because you might be in an organization where what I'd consider under the line. So there's under the line and over the line behaviors. And what I mean by that is stuff that's above the line is stuff that is spot on and perfect, and you aspire to keep. And there'll be stuff below the line that you will, as a leader, need to drive forward. And so there's different types of leadership needed in different types of environments. But the key to this is to make sure that you communicate what you're trying to do. So if you're coming into an organization that is underperforming and is clearly showing certain areas where you need to drive it yourself, then you need to communicate that to the workforce, to the team. You need to put a timeline around it and say that when we get above the line, this is when you start to take over, when we create the autonomy. And that's very important. And that collaboration piece as a leader, you cannot, and gone are the days where you have a leader at the top and everybody will do what they want. You need to have a leaderful team. You need to create collaboration, and you need to create consistency. And there's lots of things that I talk about and that I use as practical tools that companies, teams, organizations can use. And I've used it successfully in the Premier League, in the NBA, with various organizations and with international rugby players. And it's always worked by using my fundamentals. And that's something that I will always talk about when I'm face to face with an organization or doing a keynote speech.
What's next for you then?
So I've been really lucky in my career. I feel very grateful for everything I've achieved. And after I left Fiji, I worked all around the world, both as an ambassador for an international bank and a sportswear company, but also having consultancy gigs in different nations, both in Europe and across the world. And lockdown allowed me time to breathe and decide on my next steps. And I wanted to create my own belonging again and be part of a team. And I've joined Brentford Football Club in the Premier League as their performance director. We've got, I think, the smallest budget in the Premier League, but we're doing really well at the moment. We've had some terrific wins against Manchester City and Liverpool and Manchester United this season, and we're the underdog that's punching above its weight by doing things slightly differently, by doing things together. And so when they asked me to join and to try to see if I could add some value to the organisation, well, it's just filled me with excitement. And importantly, when I'm allowed to go and do some speaking and do some work elsewhere, I can confidently say that the principles that I use, I'm practically using them as well. This isn't just something that's written down. I've used it throughout my career in very different cultures, from workforces that are earning no money to millionaires. And I find it really exciting and challenging to get the culture right at a Premier League club where we have millionaires playing, we have transfer windows where they could be leaving, we have wins and losses that can create pressure on managers to lose their jobs. And we're in the most competitive and most financed league in the world in sport. And that means that every day I'm challenged, and I absolutely love it. So at the moment, my future is at Brentford Football Club.